Hi, football fans. Collin Sherwin alongside Seth Varnadore. We are live. There are 6 New Year's Six bowl games, but we're going to only look at 3 of them. We got Georgia and Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. We have Alabama and Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl, not played under the roses, instead at Jerry World. And the Sugar Bowl, which somehow does not have the SEC team, which has Clemson and Ohio State. We first look at the Georgia Bulldogs, who have had several opt-outs for this game against I'm watching the Miami Hurricanes, but the Georgia Bulldogs will be playing the Cincinnati Bearcats, the Group of 5 representative this year. Georgia right now is a 6.5-point favorite at DraftKings Sportsbook. The total is set at 50.5. Georgia is minus 245 on the money line. Cincy is plus 195. Seth, I haven't been too high on Cincinnati's offense this year, and I said they've really not played a good defense all season, and they've sort of skated through offensively, though they have a very good defense. That's sort of where we're at with this game, although Georgia has had several opt-outs, and that's going to change some things. What do you see so far in your film room, and is this just going to be a case of an SEC team not showing up in a bowl game again? Or because I think if Georgia comes to play, they're going to win this thing.
Yeah, when you're looking at the stats here, Georgia is going to be by far the best defense that Cincinnati has played this year. Their stats aren't unbelievable when you look at them. You kind of look at them compared to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's numbers are crazy, but you have to factor in Georgia has played Alabama and Florida, arguably the 2 best offenses in the country. So these numbers are skewed somewhat. Georgia is, however, the most talented team in the country by the 24/7 team talent composite. And they've been turning it around on offense recently with the addition of JT Daniels at quarterback. We'll start with the Cincinnati offense against that Georgia defense. So Cincinnati's kind of at their heart, they want to run the ball. They've got a variety of backs. One of them got hurt in the championship game, Dokes, I believe, the AAC championship game. So his return is not for sure for the Peach Bowl. But you have, I think, Jerome Ford here is a transfer from Alabama, is a pretty good player. They can use Ritter to run the ball in a variety of ways. Here you see him on the speed option against a good Tulsa defense. What the biggest improvement has been this year for Ritter has been his ability to throw the ball. He struggles with consistency. This year he's been much more consistent, taking shots down the field and hitting them. He's getting a little help from his receiver. They're better outside than they were in the past, but he's also hitting some pretty big throws down the field. But I still kind of, I don't know how much I trust him still. I'd like to see him in a big game. They didn't score a ton against Tulsa in the AAC championship, and you see fumbles here. And Georgia's defense is just solid. I'm not going to show you a ton of them because we've talked about them a ton all year. They're very well coached. They play hard, and they are really talented. But they're not unbeatable. Here you see they kind of bite on the zone read here. Missouri's able to walk in for a touchdown. They're going to have to defend Ritter on the zone read. If they let him run, that kind of gets him going. And they've been susceptible to some throws down the field, especially on safeties and linebackers. You saw Florida and Alabama take advantage of that. Cincinnati defensively is going to be really aggressive. They're going to play man coverage. They're going to bring pressure. And that leads to a lot of turnovers caused. They intercept a ton of balls. And they have one of the top defenses in the country in almost every statistical metric. But one thing that they weren't, you wouldn't think is they were not unbelievable against the run this year. That is kind of their lowest rated category is run success rate allowed. And you see here, Tulsa was able to pick up some chunks against them in the run game. Another well-designed run here. But this is what Georgia wants to do. They want to run the ball first, and they've got a bunch of talented backs. I know they probably have one that may be out, but they've got 3 or 4 of them that are really good players. They haven't offered the linemen out, but they've been recruiting very well at that position. And then JT Daniels offers this new element getting the ball in receivers like George Pickens' hands, giving him shots to make plays down the field. This Georgia team is really talented. They got big tight ends and go make plays, and they also can throw the ball to their back. What JT Daniels struggles with a little bit is pressure. So here you see him get some pressure in his face, and he really short arms this one. And then this one he takes right on the chin for an incomplete pass, forcing him to throw early. I would imagine you're going to see a lot of pressure from Cincinnati, so how Georgia deals with that will go a long way in determining who wins the game. And I think one thing to watch early, if you're not quite sure on this and you want to go in game, is Georgia able to run the ball early? If they are, that's going to set up everything they want to do down the line offensively, and that's when I'd want to jump on Georgia.
So Jared Dokes is listed as questionable after his leg injury. You talk about pressure on Daniels. It's possible he's still a little gun shy from that injury he took at USC, and that was a brutal one. You don't want to get in a kid's head and say anything, but like it very possible that that's part of the reason that he's struggling right now. Is that he took as bad a leg injury as you're going to see. I have said all year that I don't think Desmond Ridder is that super great, and even though he's under consideration for a AAC Offensive Player of the Year, I don't think he can go through progressions. I think if he has to go to a second read and a third read, he makes mistakes. He's fast, but he's not like so fast that it overcomes what he's missing talent-wise. And I said all year that I just thought the AAC, a conference I cover pretty extensively, was kind of crap. So this is going to be the first time they play a defense that I think is worth anything. I think it's just going to be a whole different level of talent. I like Georgia here, especially if you can get it with the hook, even with the opt-outs, even with everything, just the level of depth of talent that they have. Like number one talent team in the country. Yeah. So guess what? You've got some starters out right now. Looks like their injury situation is star safety Richard LeCount is going to be out, but he still might play. Julian Rochester is questionable. Justin Robinson, Kendall Milton is also questionable. And the opt-outs include Ben Cleveland, tight end Trey McKitty, Trey Hill, cornerbacks Eric Stutz, DJ Daniel, and linebacker Monty Bryce. But that's the thing about Georgia is if you're number one recruiting team or the number one team on team talent, you're going to be able to overcome some of that, especially against the Georgia team, Cincinnati team that is a little bit thin. So, I mean, they're in the AAC. You're just not going to be able to get 85 good players. It's just not going to happen. So,
yeah, I agree. I'd take Georgia here too. Cincinnati's a team, though. I think that they're one of those teams that kind of any given day they could win. That defense is so good that they could give somebody so many problems that they could win, muddy the game up. But I just think Georgia's defense is also really good. And if they played Cincinnati's schedule, they would have some gaudy numbers too. Georgia, like I mentioned, has played Alabama and Florida. Those are by far two of the best offenses in the country. So Cincinnati's going to be about the third best at best offense Georgia's seen this year. Georgia will be by far the best defense Cincinnati has seen this season. So I'd take that edge there. I think Georgia will be able to do enough on offense to cover 6.5.
Friendly reminder, Cincinnati at home beat Tulsa in the championship game by 3. Now you're going to a neutral field, which is kind of going to end up being a home field for Georgia. Come on, man. I'm weighing the points here. We move along. The first college football playoff semifinal is the Rose Bowl, which will be played in Jerry World. Alabama is a 19.5-point favorite over Notre Dame. The total is 65. Right now, it will cost you $1,250 to win $100 on Alabama winning straight up. I think this could be a bloodbath. This could get really ugly. In-Books had a really nice year. That Notre Dame offensive line is definitely better than what I thought they were, but they just might get paved in this one. This could get really, really ugly really quick. Seth, do you sort of see that as well, that this could just turn into an absolute beating?
When you look at the numbers, you don't really think so. But one thing I found was interesting is that I think if I asked you before who has the better defense for sure, most people would have answered Notre Dame with all you've heard about them, and you've heard Alabama's been down on defense. Alabama's defense is actually better than Notre Dame's in terms of yards per play, not including garbage time. They're about the same in available yards percentage. The big difference is Alabama's a lot worse on third down than Notre Dame is defensively. But Alabama also doesn't let up as many explosive plays as Notre Dame does. So Alabama may actually have the better defense in this game too. And if that's the case, Notre Dame's going to be in for a long night. What does Notre Dame like to do? We've talked about them a ton in here. They like to run the football. They're going to try to run, establish that run, get Kyron Williams out there in space, let him go. Off that, you get a little play action. And book to Tommy Trimble, who's a really good player at that tight end H-back. Notre Dame has some great players at tight end and H-back. Book's shown the ability to throw the ball down the field at times. They don't have that big explosive outside guy, but they got some big bodies that can go up and make plays on the outside on 50-50 balls. And Book's shown the ability to kind of have a little bit of a Houdini act every now and then, escape pressure, and get the ball out to some open guys. Clemson just kind of overwhelmed their front with pressures and blitzes. And you see here, when you kind of are able to get pressure with 4, like Clemson was able to later in the game, these guys you don't have that dynamic receiver that's going to get open. You can watch here, there's nobody open. Book's got to hold it, and that's when the pressure gets there. Clemson also kind of moved their front a little bit, and that gave Notre Dame some problems. And Clemson was able to stuff the run a little bit. And once that happened, it makes life pretty hard on Notre Dame. So Alabama, their last game, they got shredded by Florida, right? So they had some success. First of all, they didn't let Florida run the ball at all. You see a linebacker stepping up there to stuff the pulling guard in the hole. That's a big dude pulling. This guy was a 3-year starter at Mississippi State. He's played in the SEC for 4 years, and this linebacker just smokes him in the hole right there. And you'll see here a pass rush for a sack. But you kind of look at the numbers. Florida threw for 400 yards. Maybe Notre Dame can have some success, right? These are the throws Florida had to hit to have these big plays. Tell me if you think Ian Book is hitting these throws.
Tell me Ian Book's got a wide receiver who can make that. Maybe Michael Mayer, but who name a tight end or a wide receiver who can make that catch? Yeah.
Yeah, tell me Notre Dame's got a guy that can take the top off like this. And then this one is just insane from this angle. Thank you, CBS, for running an all-22 angle. But you see who's making that throw and who's making that catch on Notre Dame.
That is gorgeous.
I don't think they got that guy. On the other side of the ball, though, they're pretty good. They'll bring pressure. They do it in a bunch of different ways. They'll disguise things and get interceptions, like they tricked the immortal one, Trevor Lawrence, here, and got a pick in the ACC championship game. And they're pretty good. They're not bad up front. They win their fair share up front, too. You see here, not bad. Alabama's been pretty good, but last week they showed some signs of weakness up front against Florida. But what does Notre Dame do? They give up the explosive pass a lot. 2 different times against Clemson here, just bombs. Well, what is Alabama good at? These first 3 plays are all from the same drive. Just watch some of the throws on this right here. In between 2 guys, nice throw, nice catch. You can't stop that. It doesn't really matter who you are. They can play action you. And now we're bringing a tight end across. Great throw, great catch. Later on the same drive, motion your back out, clear it out for your possible Heisman winner at receiver for an easy touchdown.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And then, all right, you want to double him? All right, now you're singled up on Najee Harris, who may be the better player.
Yeah.
Because he's a freak of nature. Or, hey, you know what? We'll put him outside. Your linebacker's going to come match him. All right, we'll take the middle of the field now.
So I know Mac Jones has all these weapons, and it's kind of ridiculous that he's just throwing into, ridiculously open coverage every time. He just can't cover everybody. He's just sort of looking for the open guy. but I don't think he gets enough credit. He's a really good throw. He's a
No,
good
he's
quarterback. He's
very
got good
accurate.
presence. Yeah.
Florida got guys free on blitzes a couple times, and he knew exactly where to go to the ball and threw an accurate ball that allowed his guy to make catches. But one thing that surprised me was Florida is able to get a little bit of pressure on him,
Mm-hmm.
more than I thought. Just rushing 4. That's Notre Dame's going to have to be able to do that, because you can't if you bring pressure, he's too smart, and if you try to double and play zone and stuff, they can run the ball. Or if you just let him sit back there, these guys are going to get open.
You
Their
got three
offense
guys who
presents,
finished the top. They got 3 guys in the top 10 who have the Heisman ballot on offense, not on the team, on offense.
yeah, and they probably have 3 or 4 pros on the offensive line. They're just loaded, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them. I think Florida may have got closer than anybody will this year, and that took a lot for them to even get that close. They are a juggernaut on offense. I feel like a square, but I think Alabama's going to roll, and I would take them probably 20 or more, I would think.
I agree. I might stay away from this game because the back door is going to be wide open, and you're not going to play a ton of your backups when you've got to play again or you're not going to play your starters late, and you got to play again in 9 days for the national championship. I would argue that Florida in the SEC championship game played the best football game of any team in America, not named Clemson or Alabama this season. They played out of their minds. Trask was terrific. They made plays all over the field. They played well defensively, and they gave up 52. It's just, what can you do? There's 2 teams that are just so much better than everybody else this year.
Alabama's like a tennis player with an unbelievable serve.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they break you on offense, it's over.
Right.
Because you're never breaking their serve. You're not stopping them. Florida had some chances and blew it with mistakes, but they're just unbelievable on offense, and everything's well designed. It's not just going out there and throwing up go routes to dudes that are better. They're better, and it's really well designed offense. So maybe what do you think about maybe an Alabama first half number?
I like that. It would probably be in the 9 to 10, maybe even 10 to 11 range.
Because they will come out and get all over you early. That's one thing they've shown. You go look at the LSU game. I think they got up by 35 in the first half. They're a team that can get all over you early. So that might be a way to go. If you're afraid of the back door, maybe Alabama in the first half.
Yeah, Bama minus 11 first half. So they can just blitz them. If that got under 10, I prefer that at 10 or less, but even so, 11 seems pretty stable to me. I think it's a blowout. It's just there's 2 good teams. And speaking of the fact that there are 2 good teams in football, we go on to Clemson, who is going to play maybe the least impressive team for sure the least impressive resume to make the Final Four in the college football playoff era. Ohio State, they don't look great against Indiana, and let's give Indiana credit. Indiana's a good football team. They're not overwhelming. They don't look great against Indiana, and they played actually pretty poorly against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship, which was put on a platter for them. Right now, Clemson is a 7.5-point favorite. The total is 66. Clemson is a minus 315 on the money line. Ohio State is plus 245. I haven't seen enough out of Ohio State this year to make me think that they're going to be able to keep this within the same area, especially the way Dabo's talking. Dabo's going to dunk on him. He's voting him a number 11 in the poll. He's going to have no problem dunking their heads underwater.
He must feel pretty good about it to talk this much, is what it seems like.
Oh, yeah. And, I think this turns into a paving. I would play this up to 14. I'm not even kidding. I think they're that much better. What do you say?
Yeah, it's a good matchup on paper between the Ohio State offense and the Clemson defense. Clemson's defense doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think. They're number 1 in a bunch of the advanced stats ratings. You can see they're top 10 in a lot of things here: yards per play, available yards percentage, third downs. Ohio State's got a great offense, but you see their defense has not been great this year. 62nd in yards per play, 50th in explosiveness allowed. I just don't think they're not that traditional Ohio State defense that you've had the past few years. That's just
Anybody watch the second half? Anybody watch the second half of the Indiana game? If you watch the second half of that Indiana game, you're wondering how the hell is this team in the playoffs? I'm sorry, they're not that. And when you have a sample size of 6 games total, that matters.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that once they went undefeated, you couldn't let them out. And I really think that it became a recruiting ranking type look at, they're talented, so let's just put them in. This is a team that if they played more games may have lost one. It just seemed like this is the kind of Ohio State team that's going to give one up eventually. But they're going to try to bring pressure on defense, I'd imagine, get to Trevor Lawrence. You see they have the athleticism. You see a big defensive tackle running out here and playing the screen. They still have a lot of talent. They're third in the team talent composite. Shockingly, all the playoff teams, Alabama's 2, Clemson's 3, Ohio State's 4, or that's maybe switch. Ohio State's 3, Clemson's 4, and Notre Dame's 8th. I guess recruiting matters a little bit.
That's just a touch.
But Northwestern, who is terrible on offense, was able to move the ball quite a bit on Ohio State, and I was pretty shocked. We talked about doing the Big Ten championship game as part of our picks, and I was going to take Ohio State to win by 20-plus for sure to cover that big number. Ohio State had some trouble with a quarterback run. Clemson has just been a juggernaut. You have Lawrence who can make these kind of throws under pressure. He can step up, find a receiver who's also a freak and can just outrun everybody on Notre Dame's defense. They run a little bash concept, get ETN in space. And then, Trevor Lawrence is a freak of nature too, and he can run. Once they kind of last year that Ohio State game, they unleashed him in the run game, they became really, really tough to defend. They're not as good as they've been up front, but they're going to be really hard to defend. Ohio State's similar. They were missing, to their kind of credit, they were missing a bunch of guys in this Big Ten game. I think they had 22 guys unavailable, including some receivers. But Justin Fields is a really good player, really accurate, really high in a lot of accuracy metrics. They ran the ball down Northwestern's throat. Northwestern has been a pretty good defense on all metrics. Fields has athleticism. He can extend plays with his legs or make plays in the design quarterback run game. And they've got some pretty good backs that can make some plays. They didn't handle pressure great, I didn't think, against Northwestern, though. You see here, you drive down the field early in the first quarter. Northwestern brings pressure. Fields tries to get away, loses a ton of yards. Right here, one-on-one, you don't win against Northwestern's corner. I think this is a freshman corner. People are raving about this guy. But, I think Clemson's probably got better players, I'd imagine. They just seemed out of sync in this game. You see Fields rolling out, just throwing a pick. And then this is one that would scare me if I'm a Buckeyes backer. This is my right tackle. This is no kind of crazy blitz, no kind of move. He just gets beat bad by a Northwestern defensive end. And let me tell you, Clemson's got about 3 or 4 5-stars on their defensive line that are licking their chops watching that. You see here against Notre Dame, they are going to bring pressure. They're going to bring guys. They're going to move. They got a bunch of talented guys up front that can stop the run. They're going to blitz you. Venables is probably the best defensive coordinator in college football. And he doesn't just rely on their talent. He brings a lot of pressure and really makes it tough on you.
You literally just said you took the words right out of my mouth. Venables versus Justin Fields, mismatch of the century. And when Fields makes mistakes, he makes big mistakes. You can put him under pressure, and he really struggles. He's athletic. He's got a huge arm. He can make. You need to make that 20-yard out throw. He's got the arm talent there, and he's got feet, and he can do a lot of different things. But Venables is just gonna dial it up from every which way angle possible. Stuff that Fields hasn't seen in the Big Ten. And I think this turns into a seal clubbing. I don't see how this is close. And the only thing I really don't understand is how the Jets decided to win 2 games this year and pass on the best quarterback we've seen since at least Andrew Luck and maybe Peyton Manning.
Well, they may have fired their coach for that mistake today, right? So
right,
they might have. Maybe they didn't want to do that.
You chain your defense to the damn hot seat on the bench before you let them go out there and win that game. I think this is just a total mismatch. I don't understand how this line's 7.5. I think before kickoff it gets closer to 10, and I think it's going to be 20 plus. I think, if I can buy some points up here, I'm going to buy some points up here, and I'm going to take at least 2 touchdowns, Clemson, because I think it gets really ugly, and Dabo's going to dunk on him because Dabo has that.
That's for sure.
Got that weird thing in him, man.
He's got that kind of Spurrier. He wants to take a jab. If he can take a jab at you, he wants to, or if he can make a point on the field, he wants to do it. I tend to agree with you. I think Clemson is the better team because they're just more complete. I think Ohio State's offense is, and Ryan Day's a really good coach, and he schemed them up. And Ohio State should have beaten Clemson last year. You go back and look at that. Now, Ohio State was a lot more talented on defense, but Ohio State probably should have won that game last year. But Clemson,
they were the better team. They were the better team in that game.
They were the team. Now, I think we talked before the game. LSU did not want to play Ohio State. They would much rather play Clemson last year.
For sure.
This Clemson team, I think, is possibly better on defense. Maybe not quite have the highest ceiling on offense, but you still got one of the best players in college football at quarterback and another one at running back and a bunch of complementary players on offense. I would tend to agree with you. I think Clemson's going to cover. If you like Ohio State, I think then you would have to like the over. I don't think Ohio State wins a low-scoring game. I think Ohio State, if they win, they're winning the shootout. So if you like Ohio State, maybe you might want to look at the over. But I tend to lean towards Clemson as well. I think they're going to come out and try to kill Ohio State for Dabo, make a statement going into this game against Alabama.
Injury players. So basically, if you're the son of someone famous involved in this football game, you are hurt. Wide receivers Ty Herbstreit and Drew Swinney are questionable. Linebacker Jake Venables is questionable. These last names sound familiar. And defensive end Xavier Thomas is also questionable with an undisclosed injury. Ohio State put out a list of players who the Big Ten limited took the 21-day sit-down rule and made it 17 days because why wouldn't the Big Ten bend the rules for Ohio State?
Leaders and legends.
Leaders and legends, champions for life. Yes, setting that example that sports isn't everything. The AAU member, the Ohio State University, has 17 players. You can look at them on DraftKings.com. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them is Chris Olive, who is a stud. We'll see. They're all questionable. Justin Fields is technically listed as probable with a sprained thumb injury, but he's going to go. So Don't worry about that. We're done here. Clemson by 1 million, I think, is the line that we like the most. I like Alabama too, but that backdoor scares me just a little bit because Saban tends not to dunk on people the way that Dabo's going to dunk on.
Dabo's going to go for it. He's going to try to windmill 360 from the foul line. And Saban will just take a layup off the glass if that's what it takes to win.
And we both like Georgia over Cincinnati, especially if it's under 7. So, all right. Well, I'm going to write the end of this now dramatic Cheez-It Bowl where Miami now has a quarterback controversy because Kosi Perry is leading a comeback. Let's go. Matty Diaz in trouble again because he's not going to know what to do. This is great. I love college football. It's the best.
The best part of that sentence was Cheez-It Bowl.
I have been to this game. I think I did not go this year because of COVID, but I think I've been to this game 3 or 4 different times and never with the same title sponsor twice. Hail the Tangerine Bowl forever.
There you go.
We are done here. Hope y'all enjoyed this. We'll do something for the national championship as well because that's going to be fun. What a game that's going to be. And it's going to be Alabama Clemson, by the way. But what a game that's going to be. For Seth Varnadore, I'm Collin Sherwin. Hope y'all enjoyed this.